Consistency in prayer is like breathing for your soul. It keeps your spirit alive, nourished, and connected to divine energy. When you make the decision to pray every day, not occasionally, not when things go wrong, but faithfully, you create a sacred pattern that aligns your heart with heaven. Each prayer becomes a small spark, and when those sparks accumulate, they ignite a fire of faith that cannot be extinguished. Even on days when nothing seems to happen, something invisible is taking shape within you. Every word spoken in prayer is like a drop of water falling on dry ground. You might not see immediate growth, but under the surface, the soil of your heart is transforming. Roots of patience, humility, and strength begin to take hold. Your consistency becomes proof of your belief, not in your own power, but in God's timing and goodness. This rhythm of prayer builds a bridge between your limitations and God's limitless power. When you decide to show up every single day, tired, joyful, broken, or hopeful, heaven takes notice. Your faithfulness in the small moments prepares you for the bigger blessings ahead. Many people pray once and expect instant miracles, but true transformation happens in the quiet, in the unseen, in the daily devotion that only you and God know about. Every consistent prayer is like a spiritual investment. The more you deposit, the more interest you gain, peace, wisdom, strength, and clarity. Even if you don't see immediate results, God is always working behind the scenes, using your consistency as the foundation for your future victory. Prayer is not just an act, it's a habit, a lifestyle, a heartbeat. When you decide to pray consistently, you are choosing to build a spiritual muscle. Like any muscle, it gets stronger with practice. At first, it might feel like effort. You might struggle to find words or time. But the more you do it, the more natural it becomes, and soon you realize you cannot live without it. As prayer becomes part of your daily routine, it starts to shape how you see the world. Problems don't disappear, but your reaction to them changes. You begin to see challenges as opportunities for God to show His power. Worry is replaced with worship, fear is replaced with faith, and complaining turns into gratitude. Every prayer session becomes a mirror that reflects your growth and your surrender. Consistency turns prayer into a sacred rhythm that orders your day. You begin to crave that moment of silence with God before the noise of the world begins. You realize that prayer isn't about perfection, it's about connection. It's about showing up as you are every single time and trusting that God hears even the unspoken words of your heart. With time, prayer stops being something you do and becomes something you are. It shapes your thoughts, your reactions, and your decisions. You start carrying peace everywhere you go because prayer has become your anchor in a world that constantly shifts. One of the greatest lessons in consistent prayer is learning that faith is stronger than feelings. There will be days when you feel on fire spiritually, when every word flows and you sense God's presence all around you. But there will also be days when prayer feels dry, empty, or repetitive. That's when your faith is truly tested. Real faith is not built on emotion but on conviction. When you pray without feeling it, you're telling heaven, I trust you beyond my senses. Those silent prayers, those moments when you keep going without results, are the ones that carry the most power. God listens closely to the prayers spoken through perseverance. When your emotions fade, your consistency becomes your worship. You keep showing up not because of how you feel, but because of who He is. And when you remain faithful in the silence, something shifts in the unseen. The strength of your spirit grows, your roots go deeper, your faith becomes unshakable. So even when your heart feels cold, keep praying.
When you feel forgotten, keep speaking to heaven. God is always listening, even in the quiet. The feelings will return, but the strength you build during the dry seasons will carry you for a lifetime. Consistent prayer doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. The first miracle that happens when you pray daily is an inner one. You start to see things differently. Situations that once triggered anger now inspire compassion. Problems that once felt impossible become opportunities for growth. Prayer cleanses the soul. Each time you talk to God, it's as if you're emptying the heavy load you've been carrying. The more you pray, the lighter your spirit becomes. You learn to release control, to trust, and to forgive. It's not an instant process. It's a slow, beautiful transformation that happens day by day. The presence of God in your daily routine brings peace to your mind and healing to your heart. It's like rain falling gently on hard soil, softening it until life can grow again. You begin to develop patience, kindness, humility, and understanding. Your priorities shift. You start wanting what God wants, not just what you want.
When you pray consistently, your whole inner world realigns. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your desires come into harmony. You begin to walk in purpose, knowing that every step is guided. Before God changes what's around you, He changes what's inside you. And that's the greatest miracle of all. When you pray consistently, you begin to understand that God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't match your plans. Prayer teaches you to wait with trust, not frustration. It reminds you that every delay has divine purpose, and every not yet is a setup for something greater. The waiting season is where faith matures. Many people give up when the answer doesn't come quickly, but patience is a sign of spiritual maturity. The more you pray, the more you realize that God is never late. He's always on time, but His schedule is not based on your clock. It's based on His wisdom. Sometimes God uses waiting to prepare your heart. Maybe He's strengthening your character, refining your motives, or protecting you from something you don't see. Every prayer you make is recorded. None of them are ignored. Even silence is an answer, because God might be saying, "Hold on, I'm working." So keep praying, keep believing. Every time you kneel, you build trust in His process. One day, when your prayers are answered, you'll look back and realize why it had to take time. You'll see that what felt like delay was actually divine preparation, and that patience itself was one of the greatest gifts prayer gave you. Moon and stars. When you decide to pray consistently, you enter a spiritual battlefield that most people never see. Every time you close your eyes to pray, you step into a war zone between faith and fear, light and darkness, trust and doubt. Prayer is not passive, it's an act of war. It's declaring to the enemy that you refuse to live under his lies. The devil fears a praying person because he knows prayer connects you directly to the ultimate source of power, God Himself. Sometimes, right after you start praying more, life seems to get harder. Problems multiply, distractions appear, and doubt whispers in your ear. That's not coincidence, it's resistance. Darkness always fights hardest when the light starts to shine brighter. When that happens, don't stop praying. That's the moment your breakthrough is being formed in the spiritual realm. Consistent prayer doesn't just bring comfort, it brings authority. It gives you strength to speak peace into chaos, to call hope out of despair, and to declare victory when everything looks lost. Each prayer becomes a spiritual weapon, sharp and precise, cutting through confusion and fear. And the more you pray, the stronger your armor becomes. The attacks don't stop, but your spirit becomes too rooted to be shaken. You learn to stand tall, knowing that every time you pray, you are not fighting alone. Heaven fights with you. Praying hands and sword. One of the most humbling things about prayer is realizing that God's answers rarely come the way we imagine. You might pray for strength, and instead, God gives you a challenge to make you stronger. You might pray for peace, and He removes something that was quietly stealing your joy. You might pray for open doors, and He closes others to protect your destiny. Consistent prayer trains your spirit to see these hidden blessings. You begin to recognize that God's wisdom is far greater than your plans. The door that closed wasn't rejection, it was redirection. The silence wasn't absence, it was preparation. When you stay faithful in prayer, you stop chasing explanations and start resting in trust. There's beauty in realizing that every no is actually a divine yes to something better. God is not ignoring you. He's rearranging things to align with His perfect purpose. Sometimes the blessing comes disguised as a loss, and sometimes the miracle comes in the form of a lesson. Over time, you start to see your life through spiritual eyes. You understand that prayer doesn't change God's mind, it changes yours. It helps you see His hand in every situation, and once you reach that point, even unanswered prayers become reasons to praise. Stars. When prayer becomes consistent, peace becomes constant. It's a quiet, unexplainable peace that doesn't depend on your circumstances. Storms may rage, but your heart remains still because you've learned how to rest in God's presence. This peace doesn't mean your life is free from problems. It means your spirit is free from panic.
As you pray daily, your inner world begins to settle. The noise of anxiety fades, the weight of worry lifts, and your thoughts find order. You begin to live in rhythm with heaven's calmness. That's when people around you start to notice something different. A glow, a stillness, a confidence that doesn't make sense in a chaotic world. Prayer reshapes your mental landscape. It rewires your thinking from fear to faith, from confusion to clarity, from restlessness to trust. Every moment spent in prayer deposits peace into your soul, like sunlight soaking into the earth after a long night. This peace becomes your protection. It guards your emotions, strengthens your mind, and guides your words. You stop reacting to life's chaos and start responding with grace. That's when you know prayer has done its deep work, not by removing all your problems, but by giving you peace that surpasses all understanding. When you pray consistently, the blessings don't stop with you. They overflow into the lives of those around you. Your family, friends, co-workers, even strangers can feel the difference. Your presence carries peace, your words bring comfort, and your actions inspire faith. You become a living testimony that God is real and that prayer works. A consistent prayer life turns you into a channel of divine energy. The same light that fills you begins to flow through you. You start interceding for others, praying for their healing, their guidance, their peace, and often your prayers become the reason they find strength to keep going. Even without speaking, your consistency in prayer sends a message. Faith is powerful, and persistence pays off. People who see you may never know the battles you fought in secret, but they'll feel the peace that comes from your connection with God. Your prayers have no expiration date. They echo through time, touching lives, changing stories, and breaking chains you'll never see. That's why your daily prayer matters. It's not just for you, it's for generations that will come after you. The ultimate goal is not to pray occasionally, but to live in prayer. It's when every thought, every breath, every action becomes a conversation with God. You wake up thankful, walk in faith, and go to sleep in peace. Prayer stops being a scheduled activity and becomes the atmosphere of your life. When prayer becomes your lifestyle, you walk in alignment with divine will. Decisions become clearer because you've learned to listen. Worries become lighter because you've learned to trust. You no longer pray just to get things. You pray because you love the one who listens. This is where true transformation happens. You realize that prayer isn't about convincing God to move. It's about allowing Him to move through you. Your words carry authority. Your presence carries peace, and your faith becomes contagious. You begin to live in what the Bible calls unceasing prayer, a state of constant awareness of God's presence. That's the ultimate result of consistency. Not just answered prayers, but a transformed soul. When prayer becomes your lifestyle, miracles become normal, peace becomes permanent, and your life becomes a testimony that constant prayer truly changes everything. No matter where you are on your journey, remember this: prayer is not about perfection, it's about persistence. Every prayer you make, even the smallest whisper, has value. Every moment you spend in God's presence shapes your destiny in ways you may never understand. Keep showing up. Keep praying when it's easy and especially when it's hard. Consistency turns ordinary people into spiritual giants. And one day, you'll look back and realize that your daily prayers built the foundation for every blessing you're living.